With cat-like quick reflexes, the Rangers dodge a bullet. Yeah, it's nice to know that Adolis García is not that injured. We'll talk about the extent of his injury and the rest of the day, the week, the time in spring training coming up next on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Yeah, not only the Rangers breathing that sigh of relief, but certainly there's no doubt Adolis García is too. As we learned today that Adolis' injury, the problem that he felt in his oblique, is not even as serious as Wyatt Langford's was. And Wyatt's about ready to return to the lineup. Adolis should not miss any time during the regular season, at least not because of this. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS Sports Studios and welcome to the DLLS Rangers Podcast. John Radigan here and in Arizona. We've got Jeff Wilson. The Prophet's here and he's got us shifting cameras and doing all kinds of crazy stuff here, which is fun. And anyway, Jeff, good news. Adolis, not that bad. It's what Boach said. It's between a 0 and a 1 grade.
Yeah, that's I don't even know why you'd count it at that point, they had told us that Langford's was very minor, but it came out as a grade one, which is, isn't super minor, I mean, it's on a scale of 1 to 3, which is how these injuries are graded generally. That's a pretty small one, but it still takes some time. And, if Wyatt makes his debut on Friday, that's roughly 2 weeks. So it would be a minor grade one. Adolis, if it's a grade 0 or a grade half or whatever you want to do it, should take him less time of rest and a quicker ramp up to activity. So yeah, there's a definite, like you said, dodged a bullet. We were sitting here yesterday trying to be cautious and trying to be optimistic and saying, hey, maybe it is a Wyatt Langford situation, and they got out in front of it. And that's what they did, as opposed to the Nate Lowe situation a year ago, where it happened on May 8th, and he ended up missing the first 20 games of the season. So you're definitely, if you're a Rangers fan, this is very good news. Obviously, if you're a Rangers player, manager, front office person, great news. You're going to have your right fielder who's capable of 30 to 40 home runs in a season ready on day one. There's plenty of time for him to get ready. Even if he doesn't get back in, let's say, the 17th or 18th, there are minor league games he could come play in. There'd be 5 more Cactus League games, and then there's the 2 exhibition games at Globe Life on the 24th and 25th before the March 27th opener.
Yeah, and the other good news, I think, on this, Jeff, is the abundance of caution exercised by Adolis, right? I mean, when you're a big, strong guy like that and you lift weights all the time and something's always kind of, a little sore. And that soreness, like he felt that soreness on the left oblique, and he's like, this is not the kind of soreness that can possibly go unreported.
Look, it's come out here in the offseason that he was hurt all throughout last season. He wasn't healthy when he got to camp last year, still playing catch up after the World Series injury, and then that injury in September where he hurt his knee and had to go on the injured list. So it wasn't a good season for him last year. He tried to play hurt and played through it, and who knows how much that contributed to the down season he had. But to get out in front of it and to go into the season as healthy as possible and not have to go through what he did last year, I'm sure that was front and center in his mind too. So yeah, now he still has work to do. The swing that he came with to camp, while it's shorter and faster, it's still he's a lot kind of tighter in the upper body, which might have led to this. So the Rangers want to see him a little bit looser and maybe a little more not as upright. Um, but those are things that they can work on and still have time to to get it to where he's still quick with the short stride, the lower leg kick, but now a little bit looser and maybe free him up a little bit more, free up those big muscles that he carries around.
Yeah. So the chat, we love you, chatters, diehards. Thank you. And the chat's active. I do want to say this though, to anybody in the chat, any of our diehards who possibly haven't subscribed yet, please do that because we're really close to 18,000 subscribers, and it was the Rangers show that was responsible for 17,000. And damn it, we want 18 as well.
That's right.
We want milestones, right. Jeff.
Yeah, subscribe to our channel, and then we're hitting milestones on the diehard front too. So become a diehard. Read my stuff that's paywalled. Read about the Mavs if you have the stomach to still do that. Read about the Stars. Read about the Cowboys. I'd say on the Mavs, the train wreck that unfolded with the Luka trade, it's now a pileup.
Yeah.
So you can't turn your eyes away from it, and there's something every day that you probably want to read, and we're doing a great job there.
Yeah, so, it's like two trains hitting head on, and then a bus hitting into the trains, and on the other side there's an 18-wheeler that smashed. I mean, it's bad. Rarities does ask via the chat, do the Rangers seem to have an unusual amount of injuries to the oblique area? I don't think so in this game, Jeff. I don't know if there's any research out there or if you've done this before. It seems like every team has guys. I mean, again, those are the muscles you use for baseball.
Yeah, it seems like the oblique diagnosis and the lat diagnosis have kind of been more prevalent across the game. And I wonder if there was a misdiagnosis along the way. All those muscles come together basically at one spot, and at the top of the shoulder. And there's so many things that can go wrong in that area. With the labrum, the rotator cuff, the teres major, the teres minor, the subscapularis, all these muscles, whether they're big or little muscles that are in that general region. So I wonder if there's just been a misdiagnosis here in baseball for, I don't know, until the last 5 years. But it is interesting. But it's not just hitters who are suffering it in baseball. It's pitchers across the league. The Luis Gil, the reigning American League Rookie of the Month. He's going to be shut down 6 weeks with a oblique lat situation. So the Rangers aren't alone. It does seem to be the in vogue injury with them, though. And at least this spring, the two guys you're really counting on have been slowed by it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk also about another quasi-development, almost development. When you guys talked to Boats today, I saw you tweeted about it, Jeff. He stopped short of announcing what we speculated yesterday, which is to say that Jacob deGrom will start opening day in place of, that Nathan Eovaldi will in place of Jacob deGrom.
Yeah. It was like he was asked about it, and he said, "Well, you can probably guess who it is." And then the next question was, "Has he started a opening day for you in the past?" And the answer was, "Yeah, he has." So there you go. There's your answer. It's going to be Nathan Eovaldi. Nobody is surprised by that news, as we were talking about yesterday. He's been good this spring, and I'm sure he will take it on, and it is an honor, but he'll try to treat it like another start. And this is probably, I'm trying to think back to last year. This might be the fourth of his career, maybe just the third, but he's an old pro at it. And if you can't give it to deGrom, or if you choose not to give it to deGrom in this case, is what I think is a better way of saying that, then you're going to give it to another really good option.
Yeah, and I saw an interview. MLB Network, by the way, is at Rangers spring training at the facility there in Surprise right now, and they were interviewing just a whole bunch of guys, and Greg, their interviewer, had
Amsinger, tall guy.
Thank you. Yeah, Greg had Jacob DeGrom on, and he was asking about that. How do you manage this? You're coming off injury, yada yada yada. And Jacob said, "Look." He goes, "Are you going to skip starts?" Jacob goes, "Man, if I'm going well, I don't want to skip a start. No, no." He said, "We have a lot of off days in the early part of the season, especially. I think it'll kind of take care of itself." But, that's Jacob's mindset, and certainly probably one of the reasons this decision to start him at the back of the rotation was made, right? Take advantage of those breaks in the schedule. And as you've said many times, Jeff, Mike Maddox likes to honor the off day. So that means, that will give him some more downtime.
Yeah, you can really do a lot of things with your with your pitching staff to start a season, and there are an abundance of off days usually at the start of a year. Really, if let's say Cody Bradford's the number four starter, right? He has minor league options. The Rangers technically could start him in the minor leagues and just call him up when he's first needed. And they could go with an extra guy in the bullpen. There's just a lot of ways to manipulate the roster. I'm not saying that's going to happen or has even been discussed, but if the Rangers catch an off day, everybody benefits from it. But if you can stack them so that it benefits the best pitcher in the world, then you're going to do it. So yeah, this isn't a big deal, and we talked about it some more with the manager this morning, and he talked it through again, and but he said, he was asked about innings limits and stuff like that. He said the Rangers might do it, but if Jacob DeGrom's healthy and if Jacob DeGrom wants the ball every time, they're going to figure out a way to do that. They're not they are not entering the season with a specific plan on how to limit him. Now they know there are plans and ways to do it, and obviously they've planned for him to start the season in the back of the rotation. But if he's feeling good and if he's feeling rested, they're going to let him start as much as he can. This this is the best guy out there, and you're paying him a lot of money. I know there's the risk involved, but again, I think 25 starts is completely doable. I'm sure Jake would like to make 32 or 33. But if you get 20, let's say, I've been saying 20 to 25, and the team would be just head over heels. Let's say it's 25 to 30. Good night. That's really, really good. But, you know, on the conservative end, I think that the Rangers ultimately will end up skipping him. They can manipulate the rotation around the All-Star break
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that he starts, 5 days out, gets the break, and doesn't start till the fifth game back. So there are a lot of ways to do it. But there seems to be, as camp has unfolded, less and less concern about Jacob deGrom's workload this season.
Yeah, fantastic. And speaking of that Cy Young stuff, there is later in the show, there's a Cy Young handicapping going on. Does Jacob DeGrom appear on that list? We've got that answer coming up later. But right now, let's look at today's lineup, Jeff. And this almost looks like, and I know it's spring training, but it kind of almost looks like one of your getaway day lineups, right? Where you're giving everybody a little bit of rest, but everybody needs their reps. Everybody needs their opportunities. Zeke gets in there. We got Kevin Pillar in right field. I don't know if I've seen Jonathan Ornelas's name much so far this year, but there you go.
Yeah, the good year is where the Rangers will be playing today. That's where the Reds and the Guardians have their spring compound. It takes 15, 20 minutes to get there, tops. But apparently that's too far for a lot of the regulars. So they're not traveling. That lineup is barely meets the MLB guidelines. You're supposed to have four regular players in your lineup on a road game, and that is really stretching the bounds of that. They have four guys on the 40-man roster. Okay, great, but so yeah, they're getting away with one here. Maybe they didn't want to send the good hitters to face Hunter Green, who throws 100 miles per hour and stuff like that. But by God, there's going to be a game today, and nine guys are going to be in the lineup for the Rangers. This not the nine you're going to see probably at all during the season, at least collectively. You'll see some of those guys this year for sure, but if those 9 end up starting a game for the Rangers in the regular season, there are some pretty major problems.
Yeah, huge problems. I saw somebody on Twitter say, "I don't if they put that lineup out there every day, I don't know if they could win 65 games." I'm not sure they could win that many.
Yeah, they might be ready to knock off the White Sox
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the worst most losses ever.
Yeah. All right. So but Jeff will be there, and John Moore is a partner from the weekly show. They'll be hanging out with the Rangers all day long. We'll be hanging out with you for the next 45 minutes or so, with lots more coming up, including some of the highlights from yesterday, of which there were many. That's next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, I got to put on my glasses for this one. We got a new sponsor called Timeline. And it's about a supplement, right? Timeline is a supplement, and you really need to get this. The cells in our bodies are the building blocks of life, and Timeline is a supplement that works with those cells to give you more energy, feel stronger during workouts, and preserve your health and mobility as you start to age, something about which I know very little. There are patented ingredients in our MitoPure. It's a postbiotic nutrient that clears out dysfunctional mitochondria, aka
Oh no.
your cell's battery packs. I did not have saying dysfunctional mitochondria on my bingo card, not only for today, but maybe for the rest of my life. But you will have none of that if you get yourself some of this wonderful Timeline. Right now, Timeline giving you 10% off your MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/DLLS to get started. Timeline.com/DLLS.
Well, if you're going to be feeling better, thanks to Timeline and wanting to be outdoors more, you're going to need those shady rays. I think it's going to be a shady rays kind of day here in Arizona today. It's a little bit cloudy right now, but that's going to burn off. And you're going to need these sunglasses. The Arizona might be the brightest place on the face of the earth. And so you want to protect your eyeballs if you're going to be outside watching baseball. You want to be able to see foul balls that are coming at you. You don't want to lose them in the sun. So yeah, slide on some shady rays. A lot of us at DLS are proud owners and users of shady rays, and with good reason. They're damn near indestructible. They're very, very affordable. So if you use the code DLLS, talk about affordable, 35% off your first pair of polarized sunglasses at shadyrays.com.
Fantastic. I loved your note yesterday. And again, we know there are managers out there, at least one that we know of, who the Rangers are actually seeing today in Tito, who's not going to mess with the ABS system. But the Rangers did yesterday. Corey Seager messed with the automated ball strike system yesterday, Jeff, and the result was, it went in Corey's favor. I loved it.
Yeah, Jake Berger had actually tried it earlier in the game. I don't think it was the same inning, and it was the umpire was right. So I believe Derek Thomas was his name. So good for Derek Thomas. But yeah, they're in the Corey's second plate appearance, and as a full count, and 2 outs, runners on the corners, and Derek Thomas rung up Corey, and Corey was just kind of disgusted and kind of looked back at him and hit his helmet, and uh, Thomas, went through the procedure. It took 10 seconds. That's the great thing about this. 10 seconds.
Nice. Yeah.
And by golly, Corey was right. So the A's had to kind of scramble back into their positions. The bases were loaded with 2 outs. It didn't work out producing a run, but it sure could down the line. That's for sure. So I'm enjoying the ABS a lot. I look forward to the day it's in the major leagues. I do kind of wonder though, like, so Jake Berger's wrong. What does he look at Derek and say, "Hey, man, sorry," or
Right.
or is it, "Hey, good call. I just wanted to make sure you were right," and then or I wanted the crowd to see it, or to make a little joke, and then Corey, what does he say? Like, "Told you so," or whatever, clean it up.
It's
I don't know what the interaction between batter, catcher, player, umpire is.
Yeah, it's a good question. In fact, as you were sort of describing how it happened, that Corey looked disgusted and then ultimately touched his helmet, which is the signal to say, I want to challenge this call. I was thinking that same thing. I'm like, well, now do we need to stop being disgusted and be more like, it's just part of the game, right? But it's hard not to be disgusted. Like, are you kidding me, Blue? Right? And so, I wonder if that dynamic will develop some if and when this gets to the major leagues, to where, I don't really have to argue with the guy. I just touch my helmet and prove him wrong.
Yeah. Well, we saw Mike Milkinski last week saying, he'd missed two and finally got one right and made a joke about it.
Yeah.
So, I don't think the umpires really love the idea of showing how often they're
No.
wrong. I know there's the K zone and everything, and on TV, and I guess umpires can argue with, well, that's not accurate, and the camera angle's not perfect, and things like that. But technology has advanced to the point where these guys are it's pretty easy to find out how they're doing, and or how well and how badly they're doing. So
Yeah.
you're kind of getting a feel for what might be like this spring.
Yeah, and I think that there are going to be, obviously, I'm sure there are at the minor league level, we'll have to look this up, but statistics that show, like, how many times was the team right and how many times were the umpires right. And, it won't surprise me if and when it gets to Major League Baseball, as good as those umpires are, that it's about 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there will be, the players know who the good umpires are, and they know who the bad ones are. There might be a bias toward both of them, but there are times when even a great umpire like Jim Wolf, who I think is very good, he'll miss one, and it doesn't happen often. And a lot of these guys, they may miss three or four calls. It just depends on the moment that they miss them, um, what the situation is, and how egregious it is. And these batters think they have great eyes, and a lot of them do. Evan Carter being one of them, Corey Seager obviously being one of them. But they're not always right. The umpire has a pretty good view of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The question comes from our All About Sports Zone in the chat. Wondering when it might be in Major League Baseball. Could it be as soon as next year, Jeff, given how it would be entered into the game?
Yeah, I think so. They're testing it still in AAA. That's where it's been, and there have been some issues from various ballparks with the technology, and lining up what TrackMan is seeing with what's being shown on the video boards and all of that. So it can be a little tricky, and they've done it a couple different ways in the minors, two different ways to see which one that ends up being the best one. So I think that it won't be this year. You don't want to change it mid-flight, because you have to get technology up and running, and in 30 different ballparks, and really there's only 3 weeks until opening day. So I don't think it'll happen this year, but next year it seems pretty feasible for that to be implemented into the game, and the commissioner can just do it. He doesn't need the players to approve it or anything like that. I'm sure he would kindly talk to them and get their opinion, but if he thinks it's for the better of the game, he has the power to do it on his own.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, as today's lineup indicates, when you go to spring training, you don't necessarily get, like a full chance to see every one of your favorite players in every game every day, right? They're picking their spots. They're not playing nearly as much. They're certainly involved in baseball activity every day, but not necessarily playing in the A game every day. So when you see Jock Peterson hit a home run, another one, as he did yesterday, Jeff, that's fun. And this was a shot. Let's take a look at Jock Peterson's home run, Prophet. That thing got out in a hurry, and man, it goes halfway up that hill out there, Jeff. I think that Jock Peterson's going to be a fan favorite That was such a smooth, easy swing, and it went that far.
Yeah, and it, Uh, a lot of things happen when the ball comes right off the bat. One of them you see the trajectory right away, but the sound always is usually a giveaway, and that thing just sounded louder than anything that
Yeah,
had
it
sounded
did.
the whole game. And so you figured he'd at least hit a double, and yeah, it was pretty funny that Statcast initially showed it at 380 feet. Well, if you noticed, it went to the center field side of the 379-foot sign. So obviously Statcast was messed up. I guess Statcast hadn't shown it going through the wall instead of over the wall. So I mean that was and he hit it at around 108 or 109 miles an hour. So that was a 400 footer, and that's just part of why the Rangers signed him. They wanted to add power. They wanted to add a guy who could hit fastballs, and they needed to be better against right-handed pitching, and he Jock Peterson addresses all three. So yeah, I think he hit 23 home runs last year. As not a full-time player, but more than a part-timer. So I'm sure the Rangers would gladly take that number. There's some tough parks that hit in the AL West. There's some easy parks that hit in the AL West. So 23 is probably a fair number.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good over-under to set on someone like Jock Peterson. And yeah, his ball did not go through the wall. It did not make like Pete Incaviglia, who's about the only
Right.
guy I know in Major League Baseball that actually went through a wall.
Correct. And then I think legend has grown with that one. And John Blake may or may have not had something to do with that one back in what was it,
Yeah.
the spring of 86. But yeah, the infamous Pompano Beach wall, which was pretty much falling apart at the time. So
Yeah.
I think that I think Pete just found a soft spot. But it was an old wooden wall, and John Blake took reporters out there to show it off to him and all this stuff. So John Blake knew a story back then, and can probably still sniff one out in his first year of what he's calling retirement, though
Yeah.
apparently he's at the ballpark 4 days a week. So
Yeah, very, very much semi-retirement. I'll say that about John Blake right now. Another home run hit yesterday. We don't have vids of this one, but it was getting late, I think. But Josh Smith, a couple of major leaguers against Mason Miller. So sometimes you see a guy hit a home run and you go, well, that the kid he hit it off is going to be an A-ball this year or whatever. But
right, right.
Josh Smith hit his against a legit closer for the A's.
Yeah, oh yeah. Look, I guess he was looking heater. First pitch, ambushed it, hit it out between the 379 sign and the bullpen, a little bit closer to the bullpen. So it did just sneak out, but he hit it really hard. Mason Miller was throwing 102 miles an hour yesterday on March the 4th. So he was bringing it. His slider was a good pitch. I believe he might have gotten Corey Seager with it. Alejandro Osuna had a double. It wasn't like a rope off the wall. His first double of the day was. This one just found the right spot in the infield with the infield shifted over against him, hit off the third baseman's glove, and he's fast enough that he easily made it to second base.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing, and we'll show you Osuna in a second. Boach was asked when Boach was interviewed by the MLB guys today. It was Yonder Alonso who was interviewing him, and he said, "Who has stood out to you, Boach, in camp?" And Bruce brought up Alejandro Osuna. Let's look at the hit that Jeff's talking about, that reference there. Jeff, shifts have been outlawed and all that, but that was sort of a shift within the legalities of no shifts. Yeah. And yeah. I love it when a guy can beat the shift.
100%, and I really don't understand why the third baseman was shifted to pull there, because Osuna had been late on a previous fastball, and it just seemed like if he was going to put it in play, it was going to go to the left side. But good for him, and he is the star of the camp. Bruce Bochy loves him. Tony Beasley loves him. Donnie Ecker loves him. He plays the game. They call him a ball player. That's like the ultimate compliment, for a player. This guy's a ball player, which means he does everything well. He does it hard. He competes, does things with intent. Like Bruce Bochy was talking about how the other day, I guess it was Monday, on a fly ball that was going to be caught, Osuna rounded second, so knowing he could get back in time, but if there was a chance it was going to fall, he was going to get the extra base. Just smart, heady guy. Baseball's in his bloodlines. Uncle Antonio Osuna was a pitcher. Roberto Osuna, who we know for non-baseball reasons, unfortunately, was a really good young closer for the Blue Jays before he had some legal issues. He's now pitching in Japan. They talk every day. I talked to Antonio today. Super nice kid, soft spoken, does well with English, even though he's from Mexico. And he's a guy who's going to be in the big leagues pretty soon. I think just based on what he's done this spring and how much of a favorable impression he's made, if he's going good at I would assume AAA this year, and the Rangers need an outfielder, I would bet that there are a lot of people who will say, I want Osuna on this team.
Yeah, and Boch's exact words, and I know we got to get to the breaks, but Boch's exact words to Alonso were, if he doesn't break camp with the team, I'm sure he'll be up here at some point during the season. So in Boch's mind, breaking camp with the team is even still a possibility
Yeah.
at this point, although probably a long shot. All right, more coming up. In fact, speaking of that conversation that Jeff had with the hitting coach of the Texas Rangers, Donnie Ecker, we talk about that and the attitude of the club next on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
It's what is it? Wednesday you're in Surprise, but it's Saturday Neon time. Every day of the week, not just Saturdays. Our good friends at Saturday Neon, the makers of some very nice, high quality LED neon signs. They're durable. They're affordable. They look great in your room. They're pretty much they check every box. If you have a man cave or a bar, or just want to put something up in your office like I'm considering doing. And they're affordable. Did I mention affordable? They're affordable. And if you use the code DLLS at SaturdayNeon.com, you get 10% off. Right now, their area is college programs. They're aligned with about 50 of them. They need to get TCU, which I'm sure that if they've listened to the show, they're working on diligently right now. But they'll make you a custom sign, and so you can get whatever you want, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it right. So again, SaturdayNeon.com, DLLS, 10% off.
Yeah, Jeff, I heard you yesterday struggling to remember my friend from Game Time, and I was distracted by something else going on here. I couldn't help you. But it's Nicole.
Nicole, right.
I heard from Nicole today again, not
Nice.
realizing that you can get things like the Monster Jam on the Game Time app. There are so many different things you can get on this app. And the thing we always want to point out is the price lock guarantee and the fact that you can buy with certainty. They vet these tickets out like no other service does. They get the tickets. They vet them out. They take all the risk away from you, and you can literally buy a ticket to any event out there. So get that Game Time app. Make friends with Nicole, as I have, and use the code DLLS at time of purchase, and you will get $20 off that first purchase. All right, the attitude of this club, and that was the other thing that Greg Amsinger and Yonder Alonso have just noticed. They're doing 15 clubs, I guess, each, because they got 30 clubs in 15 days, and I think there's 2 crews out there. So they're hitting 15 clubs. And every interview they do, I've seen, they had Wyatt today. They had Jacob, as I mentioned. They had, I think they got, I know they got Boach. There were a couple others. Anyway, every interview, there's some reference to sort of the fire and the attitude and maybe the sort of the chip on the shoulder, the anger that they sense from this club, which everybody kind of concludes it's a product, Jeff, of dissatisfaction with last year's result.
Well, sure. I mean, you're the reigning world champions. You come out and you play okay in April, and then things fall apart, and you can never pick it up again. And Whether it's injuries played a part in it, but these guys were not hitting like they were expected to hit, and so yeah, it gets frustrating. And I think there were some frustrating moments within the clubhouse maybe on a chemistry side. I think that was addressed this offseason. I know people are putting a lot on Jock Peterson's plate, but he's only one guy, so I think that some of the people who are back, most of them are back, learned some things about chemistry and recognize that it was not a 2022 2023 feeling at all. So new year, off season, um, some perspective. People keep asking me what's the tone of camp like, and I guess along the lines that MLB Network was saying, it just seems like there's a purpose, and it's not that they didn't have purpose last year, because obviously they wanted to go out and win it, but I don't think they were equipped to do it, as is coming out more and more with the injuries and the fatigue factor, and then the issues on potential chemistry issues. So Chris Young is not going to stand for that stuff. He's such a big believer in chemistry. He wants that right first. And it starts with the right people, and you can read into it what you want about people who aren't back, and you might be right, you might be onto something, but it's something that was addressed. And yeah, it's different than last spring. Now, last spring, of course, is always going to be different. They're come off their first World Series title, and there are banners and stuff being raised and all of that stuff. But I think the Rangers knew they were in for a difficult task last spring, and I don't think they were able ever properly equipped to defend. Just not that the front office didn't give him the right pieces, just potentially the health and everything like that. So it is different this year. It does feel different. I would agree that MLB Network has kind of hit the nail on the head there with, these guys. These guys know what happened last year. They don't want to be thought of as one-hit wonders. They don't want to be the big bopper. They want to do this again and again, and they have the talent to do it, but you got to be in the playoffs to do it. So that's the goal. And if a lot of ifs in a baseball season for every team, but if the Rangers are healthy, they're going to be they're going to be a really good team.
Yeah, and you talk about that competitiveness of Chris Young. So the aforementioned John Blake has asked me to write for one of the program magazines this year, and he wanted kind of a recap of what we did with CY and Ross Fenstermaker on the show when they joined us in the studio a month or so ago. And so I've
All
been
right.
rewatching that to transcribe it for the program. And the thing that struck me on that, we've known about CY's competitiveness. You don't get a 13-year major league career without that. But Ross Fenstermaker has a competitive streak in him, too, that I think is one of the reasons, Jeff, that he's where he is. And there's no doubt that is felt and recognized by the players as well.
Well, you look at what they did this offseason. They really could have gone with the group that largely pitched for them last year and hit for them last year. And Nathaniel Lowe won a Gold Glove and has hit 27 homers in his career in a season. Um, and the Rangers thought they could do better, so they brought in Jake Berger. But you do see guys who are healthy, so that makes a big difference too. But you know, there are some pretty good arms, young arms, in the Rangers farm system who made their debuts last year. Guys like Cole Winn, former first-round draft pick, Mark Church, who I'm a huge fan of, Daniel Robert, who had just a fabulous season last year at AAA Round Rock, and they are frankly on the outside looking in to make this opening day roster because the Rangers went out, these competitive front office people, and said, all right, we're going to raise, as they like to say, the floor of our club. We're going to make it really, really hard to be a major leaguer. And we're going to make it hard on opponents when we can bring in these veteran relievers who've done something in their careers and make it hard on opposing lineups. So there's that. They clearly addressed the chemistry thing with Valdi, bringing him back, that was a big deal for them. And then they went out and just the things that they didn't do well last year were addressed. And players notice that stuff. They know they know what they didn't do well last year. And so the to see the front office go out and do that, it shows that they're all in, that these guys want to compete, that these guys are competing in the offseason for good players and to put together the best team. So now it's up to the players on the roster to go out and do this, reward the competitive front office by being competitive and playing the game the right way and winning ball games.
Yeah, and to your point about that chemistry in the clubhouse, the lack of it from last year was noticed. And one of the first things that Marcus Simeon said after hearing that Jock Peterson had signed, and I believe that Corey Seager has since echoed this, was, we didn't have that great chemistry last year in that clubhouse. We didn't have that guy that makes it super fun in there. And now we do. And then I think, though, to that point, Jeff, because that is a lot to ask of one guy, we've seen others already stepping up. Josh Young, another guy that MLB interviewed, by the way, Josh Young among them, right? Josh Young's a fun guy with a fun personality, and he was mic'd up on the one of the Texas Rangers social media channels the other day. He's another one that's going to help lighten the mood in that clubhouse.
I think Kyle Higashioka will too. We had a chance. John Moore and I were just down on the field shooting the bull with the manager, and then Kyle Higashioka came up and started talking to him, and you can just tell that Kyle's a fun guy. And I get, you talked about the guitar playing and everything that he does with when we had him on the show back in November after he signed, and there was some self-depreciating humor from him on that, and it just seems like he's a guy who's going to be loose. Like he's batting cleanup today. He's not going to bat cleanup during the regular season.
No.
But Boch said, "Hey, Higgy, what's going on?" He goes, "I noticed I'm batting cleanup today." Just kind of having fun with it. And so I think that's another guy. All catchers have to be able to relate to the pitching staff. So that doesn't mean they are only allowed to talk to the pitchers. They can they can go through and be guys too. I mean, you talk about that 23 team. Austin Hedges was that guy, and he was a catcher, couldn't hit a lick, but the Rangers wanted him with around the team, and sure enough, he's back with the Guardians this year because they saw what a great teammate he is and how he keeps things light. Well, when you go back to 23 and think about the postseason run, he bared his butt cheeks. That was his deal. Every win, they either subtract. I think they subtracted a mark from his butt. They had to have a certain number of wins to win it all. I think it was 13, and by God, Austin Hedges was there, not playing I guess he was on the World Series roster because he almost had to take an at bat in that game one.
Yeah.
But he was out there. He was not afraid to be the great teammate. And there's definitely a spot in baseball in a clubhouse for guys who have that quality.
Yeah, Austin was not afraid to jump over that railing that separates the dugout from the field, not one bit, and that was always fun to see. So we got to get to a couple of these questions. Or first, a comment. I think it was All About Sports Zone said that if DeGrom has 30 starts this year, lunch for you and me, Jeff, is on All About Sports Zone.
Okay, well, we're screenshotting that one.
Yeah,
and
we're gonna save that one.
Is Nick and Sam's open for lunch? I think that's what
I
we're
don't know
going.
if they are, but we'll find out. We may ask them to open special for us that day.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure price is no object. It sounds like so.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's any problem there. So that's really good. And then there's a somewhat cryptic question, Jeff, about you losing trivia last night. I assume that came from your partner.
What the hell just happened here? I haven't seen this question.
I assume that came from your partner on the weekly podcast.
Well, John was there, and it was controversial because the question, it was a big question, it was like periodic something. So the periodic table. Well, the question was, what is the what element or whatever is the dry form of dry ice or something like that? Well, the answer was carbon dioxide. But Jacob Newbern, one of the athletic trainers, said carbon, thinking, well, carbon's on the periodic table. Carbon dioxide is not. So anyway, we didn't get the answer right, and it was very controversial. We were all very upset at the moderator for not giving us the benefit of the doubt on that one or not seeing our way. So, yeah, that one burned. That one,
Well,
it's still hurting.
I was going to say, as dry ice could if you drop it on your skin. So you got to be careful with
Exactly.
that CO2. And so, Jeffrey Yates, we're going to get to your question here in a minute, too. We've got a couple more we'll try to work through, as well as our cleanup segment. It's coming up next, DLLS Rangers Podcast. All right, J-Dub, as promised, here's the St. Patty's Day shirt. What's the best way? There's the All-City Shamrock right there, and I've got it rolling. It's got a drunk Irishman, I think, on the back. Day drunk, by the way, which is what you really do on St. Patty's Day. Yeah, I think actually.
So just an Irishman. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the leprechaun. I thought I did. But maybe, they kind of send us what they want in some cases, too, because of our thing. But anyway, love it. It's fun. It's very festive. And I'm very Irish, so that's all good. And you should get yourself one, too. There's still time. It came quickly. And
Perfect.
Couple of others that I got while I'm at it, right? And so anyway, we're big fans of the merch. You go to store.allcitynetwork.com. You get yourself some merchandise. There's hats coming. Still might need a hoodie or a sweatshirt of sorts because this morning it was below zero, I think, here, Jeff. Maybe not that cold, but with the wind, it felt like it. So anyway, get yourself some merchandise today.
Yeah, I am not merched up. I decided to actually wear a shirt with a collar today. So dress it up. I don't know. But anyway, you do get a free shirt if you become a diehard, which we implore you to do as we did during the first segment. It's not just Texas Rangers stories you're getting to read. It's stories from the other three big sports in town, and they're always in the news. All these teams are always in the news, and sometimes it's good news, like Adolis García, who I wrote about this morning. I'll be writing a little bit more about kind of the stars of camp so far, as I always like to do every spring, get some feedback from some of the coaches and people watching it. But become a diehard, get the free T-shirt, get 20% off our events that are coming up. You really can't find a better deal anywhere in the Metroplex. So become a diehard today.
Yeah, we'd love you to do that. If you're not one of the people in the chat, please make sure you become one because, again, we're reaching milestones there each and every day, too. Harry's excited to see Molly shoved today, Jeff, and I think that's a worthwhile thought and a worthwhile vision from everything we've seen that Tyler Mahle has done thus far in spring training. This guy wants it.
Yeah, I mean he's been like clockwork. You haven't had any concerns about Tyler Mahle so far, so that's good. And he came up with the Reds and made his major league debut with them. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any such thing as sports hate this time of year, but maybe he goes out there and it has a little extra juice for him. But he's a real steady guy, kind of like he pitches. He's around the plate and changes speeds and knows what he's doing. So that'll be that's what to watch today. The lineup it is what it is. If you're a big Sam Haggerty fan, then great. You're
Yeah.
gonna have a good time watching today's ball game. But it's about Tyler Mahle. Tyler Mahle. It is Mahle, like my daughter's name. And so we'll look forward to that. See how he's doing. See how he feels as he goes deeper into games. And that's the storyline today.
Yeah, Jeffrey wants to know about the closer situation. In every interview, Chris Young for sure, and Bruce Bochy almost always, especially these bigger people, the national groups that come in, and that's a topic, right? And the question to see why today was something to the effect of, well, you don't have Kirby Yates in there. Can you really say you have a good bullpen? And CY, of course, said the same thing. And he's asked that every single time he's interviewed by by anybody, and not the daily guys, not those of us who cover him every day, but all those who come in. And the answer is always the same. They feel like they have enough guys in position that have that experience that they will be able to find someone to fulfill that role, right? They need guys to get 3 outs. I mean, that's his line. We need guys to get 27 outs. We have enough guys to get 27 outs. So, no, I don't think a free agent that would still be out there is on the table right now, nor do I think a trade is something that they're looking at right now. However, Jeff, when Boach was asked about the closer situation, I'll be danged if he didn't bring up the name Teodo.
Yeah, it's another one. You always are going to get guys who open your eyes, and 100 miles per hour is eye opening. A lot of people like Teodo. He's a fun kid, confident, and yeah, he's come a long way in just a year with his command, something that they've been working on. I still don't think it's good enough. I still think it needs to be a little bit better, but at some point this season, don't be surprised. I've kind of made the comparison to Neftali Feliz in 2009. Don't be surprised if it's the same thing. If this guy's a winning piece, if he's going to help the bullpen, and if something a trade doesn't materialize, if the Rangers think they need one, then yeah, you could definitely see that. Um, Pitching today behind Molly, God dang it, Molly, or Jacob Webb and Luke Jackson and 2 other guys. I think Luke Jackson really has a chance to close out some games. Not because he did it that one season for the Braves, but he just likes the late inning, high leverage stuff. There is a Kirby Yates parallel in that this is his second season back from Tommy John, kind of like Yates last year. Second full season, that is, and then the second off season dealing with it and learning about it. And again, there's the Yates is kind of Jackson's mentor. They have the same agency, so a lot of a lot of things to feel good about there. And he struck out a lot of batters in the second half of last season. You can go back and check the numbers, especially right-handed hitters. He was big time against them. So reasons for optimism for Jackson, but I'll still roll with I guess Chris Martin's kind of been the front runner all spring. The one thing that is a little concerning is how many hits he gives up. The hit to strikeout ratio is basically 1-to-1. Sometimes it's a little more hits than strikeouts. You want your ninth inning guy to be able to go in there and get into a bad, if he's in trouble or he enters in a situation in trouble and needs a strikeout, he can get it. So we'll see how it plays out. But Jackson is interesting. Teodo's interesting down the road. I don't think he makes the opening day roster.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And it is you hate to see a closer go in there and get himself into trouble, because many times he's just going to have to figure out a way to get himself out, right, of trouble because there's no place else to go. So
Right.
it'll be
Right.
it'll be a work in progress, though.
Yeah. And Natalie asked a question right early. If Leiter continues to pitch the way he has, will he make the opening day roster? I think he has made the opening day roster. I know it's a couple weeks and some stuff could hit the fan with him, but the Rangers have been really impressed with again the purpose he is showing. They like the big velocity. They like how he has made some changes and adjusted his, for instance, his changeup grip. He's throwing a two-seamer that he wants to use against right-handers. So he came to camp a better pitcher than he was at the end of last season, and that's showing through. Um, and again, the Rangers are going to need guys who have minor league options. That's another thing he has in his bag. He probably doesn't want to hear it, but if again the scenario unfolds where there's a heavy bullpen usage back-to-back days, and the Rangers need an arm, they got to have somebody on option who they can go get, and that Jack Leiter would fit that bill.
Yeah, Sports Zone asking about Bruce Bochy. If the Rangers make the playoffs, will he get extended? If the Rangers didn't make the playoffs, he would get extended if he wanted to, right? Because he is Bruce Bochy. And then somebody, I love it when the chat answers the chat. Somebody later in the chat said, CY has said it's all up to Boch. If he wants to keep managing, he will keep managing, and that's roughly where we are with that situation. I think it'll be a decision though that comes at the end of the season because it involves Mrs. Bochy as well. And so if
Yeah,
Boch retires, I think it may have to do with sort of those family considerations, Jeff. But I don't think he wants to.
yeah. His grandkids are coming out this week. He said he has a 5 bedroom house that he's renting this spring, and all 5 rooms are going to be filled up. So he's I think when if it comes to this point, if he starts to miss the grandkids more than he would miss baseball, I think that's what's going to do it. But he tried the retirement thing, and he just missed the game too much. And I don't know that three years is gonna sufficiently scratch the itch. So I think he's going to be back at least next year. And I would think maybe if they win the World Series, obviously that's pie in the sky. Maybe he wants to go out on top. But maybe he also knows, shoot, I've never defended one. Maybe I want to
Yeah,
give it one more try.
yeah,
But I don't think retirement is imminent for him. And again, if he says, "Hey, Chris, I want to be back next year," then they'll let him write his own contract,
yeah.
probably. Yeah, that type of situation.
Yep, done deal. All right, quickly, let's talk about Roki Sasaki. Ever since he spurned the Rangers, I've been rooting for his failure, and I'm probably going to have to root a hell of a lot harder because, man, this guy looked good in his Cactus League debut last night, Jeff.
He did. He did. It was actually on the television when we were between trivia questions, and I've seen some clips on the Twitter with the fastball two split finger overlay, and boy, they look exactly the same for about 52 feet, and then there it goes, and you're in trouble. Yeah, I will note though that by the end of that game, he was not facing the Reds A lineup.
Right.
He had some minor league hitters there who were going to be overmatched from the start. Not that the Reds are, this isn't the big red machine right now, but they still have better players than what Roki Sasaki was facing last night. But a good start for him. He did it in a little bit unusual circumstance as a relief pitcher behind Yamamoto, so he probably had to warm up a little bit differently, but it didn't seem to bother him at all. And they're not too far away from jetting off to Japan, the Dodgers. So maybe they can get him one more outing here, or maybe they let him start one of the because I think they want him to start the second game of that 2-game series.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the word
so
today out of Dodgers camp is that Yamamoto will start game one. He'll start game two. He went 3 innings last night, allowed
yeah,
2 hits, no runs. He struck out 5 and only walked 1. So, and his sinker was wicked. I mean, he was very good last night. Now let's look at those Cy Young odds because I teased this earlier in the program, and there they are. Scooble number one. I don't know what the plus 400 to plus 600 and all that stuff means because I don't bet. But this is from DraftKings, Jeff. Crochet
yeah.
Reagans. Love to see former Ranger Cole Reagans up there. And then Jacob deGrom, fourth on the list and somewhat significantly ahead of Garrett Cole and Logan Gilbert there. And that Greg Amsinger again, he asked Jacob when he did the interview with him, he said, do you mind if I name you as my favorite? You're the favorite to win the Cy Young. And Jake actually said, can I have your permission? And Jacob said, you can absolutely have my permission to do that. So there you go.
Yeah, I think the plus 400 means if you bet 100, you win 400. So four to one odds, I believe. I think I'm right. I'm sure somebody in the chat will correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I'd take those odds on Jacob deGrom. It's worth they have that new casino here in town, so maybe I should go check out the future
Yeah.
bets and get
Maybe
one down here before I
put a
before I
hundred for
leave.
me. Put 100 for me. We'll win 1,100 each. That isn't bad.
Well, then we'll take All About Sports out to lunch if we do that.
Yeah.
But he is the best pitcher in the world. he hasn't pitched in 2 years, and here he is, one of the leading five front runners to win the award. And you know, if you can see guys, and somebody made this comparison to me, a scout who I was talking to recently. If you get 26 starts and 150, 160 innings out of Jacob deGrom, you know what? That's basically what Blake Snell has done for much of his career. Of course, you would take that, and you could see him, if it's just dominant, filthy stuff, winning a Cy Young. The Rangers, of course, have never won a Cy Young. It would be the first in club history. They've had Cy Young winners, including DeGrom, pitch for them, but they've never had their own Cy Young winner. So that would be fun to see. It's obviously long overdue. What's it been, John? Shit, 54 season. This is the 54th season, I think, in Rangers history. So it'd be time for it's well overdue. And who better to do it than DeGrom?
That's awesome. All right. Great stuff as always, Jeff. We appreciate you. Chatters, we appreciate you. 2 more days for Jeff from Arizona on this trip, and we'll be on at noon tomorrow and on Friday with the DLLS Rangers Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.